Hello everybody. Today I have a special interview with Russel, the Sartorial Chauffer. Do you want to learn to dress better? Do you want to be inspired by somebody who is giving their best when they were at their worst? Do you want to hear the story of a successful person? Do you want to learn how to match colors and textures? Do you want to dress like $1,000,000 even when you don't have $100? Stay tuned. All right, so let's go.
Hello everybody, it's Robert Powers.
4.5 out of 5.
My shoe collection. These are made of Shell Cordovan. Can you tell the difference? Now here they are finished up. I'm not a professional.
Look how tight this is though.
Very clearly here, I just cut the thread in half. And here they are, all finished up. Russ, I'm so happy to be talking to you here. So I'm trying in 30 seconds or less before I lose people's attention, giving them an idea of what we're going to be talking about here today. You impressed me, and you've been impressing me because I don't know when it was. It was during COVID. I started seeing you on one of the Facebook groups we're part of, the private groups we're part of, posting pictures of your outfit of the day. You were consistent with it, which successful people do, right? But the way you were doing it, you are impeccably dressed all the time, but not in a cocky way. And then when I also got to read about how you do it, you know, this was thrifted and I saved money on that. I'm like, this is my kind of guy. You know, you were very open and humble about a lot of it too, you know? And I saw what you were doing as an inspirational way, in a setting the bar kind of way, not in a flash kind of way. You know what I mean? The attitude you conveyed and what I learned about you just impressed me even more. What I've done here is I've actually pulled about, I don't know how many, a dozen, maybe 18 different posts that you made. You know, if you wouldn't mind going through some of them, could we just go through a couple of these first? Because you have a massive shoe collection. I mean, so there's the shoe collection part of this, but then there's, you are the one that actually got me, actually just 2 months ago, interested in watches. It was because of you. Before this, I always would wear a watch, but I generally had one or two working and that was about it. You know, and I'd get a quartz, you know, silver and gold quartz watch and something would go wrong with it. And I'd shove it aside and I'd get another one for Christmas, you know, kind of thing, right? And I don't know if you saw, I just released a video on this Bulova Accutron here. This was my father's watch. And I rebuilt it myself and I got it working, you know, so now I have a watch to go with any tan and brown outfits, you know, and this is another one I got out of my dad's collection. This is a Seiko 1976 Japan made, you know, and I'm not wearing a watch, so I'm going to put this one on. But you seem to have like a watch that matches everything. So if it's okay, let me pull some of these pictures, share them. Okay. Sure. And maybe you can talk a little bit over them here. So I'll have to go to that. I had the file prepared. And these are in no particular order, by the way, right? Can you see that? Okay, I know it's a little slower there. Now you should be able to see it, right?
Okay, there we go. I see that.
So like, for example, here, you know, you've got, you know, like that cherry colored band, you know, that matches. I mean, it's hard to tell exactly if it's dark brown or, you know, the burgundy color, but you got the watch band and the shoe, and then you got the gold on the watch band, you know, and the brown on the sides, the tan on the sides of the shoe. And then you've got the shirt hue that pulls into that. I just think it's an awesome look, you know?
Well, thank you. So this particular look actually started with the shoes. Some days there's no formula for it. And it just, you know, sometimes I'm sitting at my desk closing out the day's paperwork at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. And I keep my shoes in the same room that's my home office. Mm-hmm. And I just looked at those pair of shoes and I thought, you know, I haven't worn those since my good friend Tobias Crislip, who's a well-known master cobbler in North Carolina, had recrafted them for me. And they were an interesting,
right?
Yeah, with Wyatt and Dad, pro cobblers, get a few. So Tony Wyatt and Tobias Crislip, both great people.
They Facebook messaged me after one of my rebuilding, resoling a shoe at home videos. And he gave me a whole list of tips on how to make the edge finishing on the heels better. So if you see the black and tan 96624 floor shines I redid at home that have really nice edge finishing, it's all because of their tips, you know? So they had nothing to gain from that. So they seem like really great people. I'd love to send them this pair of shoes here sometime.
Yeah, they are great. Actually, the first time I ever sent a pair of shoes off to be recrafted by somebody, because I have a great local cobbler and I've been going to him for 20 years. but I saw something early on in the pandemic, actually, where they were running a special on a JR Recraft. And, you know, times were tight for everybody in, you know, April of 2020. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. And the pair I got back, I sent one of my favorite pairs of shoes, and it was just amazing. If you look at this, the pair where the picture of the sole art on there, since the very first pair, I've just, you know, sent them in and told Tony or Tobias, I think did this pair, just do something that, you know, fulfills your creative juices, or, you know, whatever, you know, surprise me. That's and cool. They did. This pair was a pair of Allen Edmonds MacGregors that had a typical, like what we call a flat welt or a dress welt, and dark brown or black edging and soles. These are a little more dressy. But I had a couple pairs of similar shoes. So I thought, you know what, I want to create something different with these. So I asked them to put a natural welt and edge on it, so you can see that tan color there. So for some contrast, from a little more casual look, and put a double oak sole on it.
Right. So, if you don't know, double oak means you've got a midsole and an outsole, basically a double thickness leather.
Correct. Which is a little more support and comfort. If you know, I'm in shoes for sometimes 12, 14, 16, 18 hours. So I appreciate that extra thickness and support. So I wanted to wear the shoes.
Right.
And
what about this watch?
So I looked, that's where I started. So I have this dark brown pair of shoes. I will typically look for a dial or a strap that's going to match something in the outfit. What's going to match the shoes and the belt. Now, you don't see in a picture here, but I had on, you know, dark brown belt as well, because I like to match those leathers.
Yes.
So when I looked at this, I have, you know, probably a half a dozen watches that have either a dark brown strap, and straps are interchangeable, or a dark brown dial. But I saw the red lining, that kind of burgundy-ish red lining on the edge of that Orient Bambino. And I thought, hey, you know, and that's just pops into my head. I have a shirt that has brown and this red in it. Mm-hmm. So I go get the shirt, look, yep, that's a match, or it coordinates enough. And then, you know, I find a pair of pants, and if you can barely see the socks,
yes,
peeping out in that one picture, but they have the same colors. You know, I have a lot of socks too, but I found a pair of socks that have the stripes, that have the color in the shirt. And that's just always something I've found. It's almost like a challenge, but found enjoyment and make it a game, or a challenge, if you will, to try to pull all those little details together.
Right. Now I'm going on first of all, going on a hunch here. How much is that? First of all, that watch, is it quartz, or I don't know much about watches yet? Or is it mechanical? That's probably mechanical.
So it is. It's actually an automatic movement watch.
Okay. An automatic movement means it's mechanical, but it's got a mechanism in it where it automatically keeps itself wound, right?
Right. It's got a counterbalance, like a weighted thing, so that the movement of your wrist basically winds the watch for you.
And that's, I mean, I don't know, again, that brand or style, but that's like the bottom end of those watches is like $400 or $500, right?
Oh, no. I bought this watch new for $120.
Really? No kidding. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, I'm making an advertisement here, but I think that Orient probably provides the best value for money in terms of entry-level automatic watches. I've probably got 20 of them. And that one's relatively new, but I've got half a dozen of them that I had for 18 years or more.
Wow.
Still working fine. They were probably, I remember my first Orient automatic watch I paid $75 for in 1998. And
okay.
You know, they're I just think they're phenomenal watches. I like
There's
the
another
style.
Point there. 98. So we're talking, what is it, 23 years. So in other words, we also got to be careful as comparing somebody who's just getting into building their wardrobe or watch collection or shoe collection to someone who's been doing it for 30 years. That's, I think, another thing you got to be careful of. You know, where don't think that you got to where you are overnight either. Right?
No.
Certainly, because I know for a fact from previous conversation, you were not born with any kind of silver spoon in your mouth. Right.
No, and it's been that's how my love for thrifting started, because, finances were a struggle. And so that was a way to get the things that I saw, whether it was somebody at church that I saw that was dressed sharply. And that I remember from a young age, that always appealed to me. It was like, wow, that, you know, that's put together.
Right.
Or, you know, and
say put together, you got window pane here on the jacket, and then it's also on the shoe. That's a fabric pattern.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
Like how cool is that? You know, I'm going to try and make it a little bigger. That is cool too. And I noticed like in this one, the watch with the bigger face and the big lettering, that's definitely, you know, that you see a lot of people in their 20s and 30s wearing that style, you know, and I think that's cool, you know, because you're not trying too hard. You know what I mean? It does not come across as trying, but it does show you as connecting to younger generations too. And I just
now, oddly enough, this watch looks that way, perhaps in the picture, but it's smaller than that Orient in the other picture.
Huh. Okay.
The case diameter on this one, I think, is 38 millimeters.
Interesting.
The big numbers are just because at my 53 years of advanced age, it's getting harder and harder to see things without glasses, without reading glasses.
Right.
And that's now that's kind of a different level. That's a Ball Engineer 2, which is a heritage Swiss watch brand. But I bought that one secondhand with a little bit of cash and a trade that involved a couple pairs of shoes.
Okay.
So, you know, I couldn't, I wouldn't pay retail for that. Not that it's not worth it, but it would be, you know, it's chunky change.
Right.
So I've always also enjoyed, I learned that from my father, kind of, you know, the barter system and the trading system. I enjoy that kind of stuff.
Right. Here's something very Ford. I was like, wow, look at that. Double monk straps, purple. I don't know if these are Allen Edmonds St. John. Okay, but they don't make those in purple, number one. And then you got the watch, a mechanical watch where you can see the movement. Like, wow, that is just awesome.
And now I'll tell you the lighting of the photos, because all my photos are taken with a cell phone camera. But that's actually a very bright blue.
Okay.
So if you look in the tie has some blue and purple in it. And I picked those shoes because that day, everything started with that watch. I had just picked up that watch on eBay.
Okay.
And it is a really, really like stunning bright blue. And I was like, I think I have a tie I got on eBay also that has that blue in it. And so it just speaks to how the outfit for me can start with a tie, a pocket square, a suit,
and then you build on that.
And then build it off of that.
I love it. I was good that was going to be one of my definite questions, is because I was wondering how you do that, because that's what I'll do. I'll be obsessed about a pair of shoes one day, or a watch, or a shirt color, and then say, okay, what can I go? So that intuitively made sense to me. So that's awesome. That's awesome. How did you get those shoes that color?
Those came stock that color, believe it or not.
Wow. Okay.
I think around 2014, Allen Edmonds they used to offer some things in some kind of bold colors, and it's a really blue. And I don't know that any other model came in quite that blue, but they actually have a belt. And again, it's not pictured here, but they have a belt that matched those.
And you have that on too?
I have it on too. I found it on clearance. So in the previous post, there was a picture of me and a lady, or two ladies actually, at the shoe bank at Allen Edmonds in Port Washington. And my friend Jean, who's in the middle there, found that belt one day and those shoes.
I was going to say, they love you because you've bought a lot of shoes from them.
Yeah, I like to support them. But they're great people.
Is it fair to say Allen Edmonds is your favorite shoe brand?
Oh, without a doubt.
You mind saying what are some of the brands you have and currently own?
Oh gosh, it would be. I mean, I own Gaziano Girling, Edward Green, John Lobb, Crockett and Jones, Alden, Carmina, TLB Majorca, Meerman Majorca, a lot of vintage brands, Vintage Florsheim, Vintage Johnston and Murphy, Cordwainer Wright, Hanover. I've had some Enzo Bonifay is one of my favorite brands. Phenomenal shoes. Antonio Maccarello, Vaz. I'm trying to think if I'm leaving any of the major ones out. Basically, all the Northampton brands: Barker, Barker Black, Grinson, Loke. I love Northampton made shoes. I think they're great.
The majority of your shoes are Allen Edmonds, though. You mind saying why?
Probably several reasons. I like the styling. It's very classic American styling. It's not too sleek and fashion forward. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just not been my personal style. Mm-hmm. I think when I was young, I saw kind of the classic 40s and 50s and 60s menswear, as you know, whether you saw it in a print ad or on television. And that was a style that always was attractive to me. And I think Allen Edmonds, you know, to this day, they just kind of have that classic, iconic American look to them. Mm-hmm. I do like, I mean, the English shoes have their own look. I mean, in some ways, very similar. I love Carmina, TLB, and Meerman. They have, you know, the Spanish and Italian brands have a little different look. And there's days I want to incorporate that. But I think for most days and most things, Allen Edmonds kind of fits my style. I think in terms of value for the money, it's still a Goodyear welted, made in America, affordable shoe. Mm-hmm. Yep. You know,
especially if you have the wide feet, or you know,
right. And that's the other thing for size. Now I'm an 8.5D, mm-hmm. So that's about as, you know, a lot of my friends give me a hard time because they're like, you guys that are 8.5 and 9D get all the good stuff, because it's a very, very popular size. I think 9D is maybe the most popular size,
right,
or most common size out there. But I have to say that part of the reason too is I've got a friend that says I like to do business with people who want to do business with me. And from day one, the customer service at Allen Edmonds is beyond anything I've ever experienced with any other brand anywhere.
Along those lines, I've seen you on the groups post two major tips, because I believe this is what I'm going to say next. I believe is fair. I believe in the last year, the recording of this video is December of 2021. I think it's fair to say in the last couple, 2 to 3 years, there have been more quality control issues with Allen Edmonds than previous, right? But you've given two very strong tips in regards to if you ever have any quality problems. Can you repeat those? You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I think one of them would be always order through a store.
Mm-hmm. As
opposed to ordering online.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because you're dealing with the service representative. And these people, I mean, let's face it, this is how they make their living. This is their livelihood. When you're dealing online, there's no, you know, person. You're dealing with the internet. And you can order something online, but there's nothing you can order online that you can't buy just emailing or calling a local store. You don't have to have an Allen Edmonds or Alden or whatever the brand is store in your neighborhood or even in your city. I have a service representative at an Allen Edmonds store an hour away, and I can email or call and, you know, hey, I saw this online. He'll look it up. Yep, it's on sale. Here's a clearance. And because I still like a good bargain.
Right.
And, you know, and once you establish that relationship, I mean, they'll send an email to clients that have done business with them. Hey, we got this sale on, you know, or, you know, I noticed that you've liked this model or whatever in the past. They brought, I told a friend of mine in Virginia that this, what I just told you, and because there's no Allen Edmonds store near him, he called the store in Costa Mesa, California, established a relationship with my friend Dan, and now that's where he gets all of his Allen Edmonds.
Interesting.
Because they get shipped from a central location. So, you know, that's the beauty of the internet, is it's not like the shoes going to California and then back to the East Coast.
Gotcha. Okay. And there was another tip you gave if you ever did have a quality control issue, and you make a phone call about it. Hey, you got the shoes and there's a defect.
I'm not sure which tip that would be.
I think what you said was make sure you call the store about the quality.
Right. Just the same thing. Instead of calling an 800 number and getting a call center that for Allen Edmonds is in St. Louis, Missouri, I think.
Right.
But that's why I buy through the store. So if there's anything, I'm calling that service representative to say, hey, this is what can we do? And I found 99% of the time, and maybe 100% of the time, that the issue gets resolved that way.
Because
whereas
what you said is like the people that are having the problems, they're not calling an Allen Edmonds person, they're calling Caleres, the parent company that bought Allen Edmonds a few years ago, and they don't care, right? So it's the Caleres level where there's usually the customer service problems. Is that kind of the gist?
Well, I think so, and I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I don't know that I would say they don't care
as much.
Yeah, as much. And I think there's two things that come into play here. Caleres has a portfolio of shoe brands. And if I don't know exactly, but I'm imagining that you're getting a call center that deals with, I mean, there are people that answer the Allen Edmonds phone, but they haven't been like the people that I'm dealing with have been Allen Edmonds employees through private equity ownership, Caleres ownership, independent ownership, whatever, but they know the brand. So it also just dealing with a service advisor that actually knows the product intimately. And for me, that's a big deal. Right.
That makes sense. Like, here's another great look here too. Pulling in the browns together, and then you bring in that mustard, that tan mustard color too. I love that.
Yeah, this one was an interesting one because one, these are a favorite pair of shoes of mine. And again, they're Allen Edmonds, but these are from the 1980s. I don't mean to sound trite, but like in a lot of things, American craftsmanship was, it was great.
Yes.
And
I had a pair of 1980s Allen Edmonds Fifth Avenues, and yeah, they are something else.
Yeah, the materials they use, the stitch density, they're just great. Yep. I love this short wing in particular because of I think the medallion's great. It's on a last that they don't use anymore. This is the Allen Edmonds Chester, which a lot of people at first look think it's a McAllister until you look at the medallion. But it's a great fitting shoe. But I was actually on a post, and I try not to be too controversial. I'm a pretty easygoing guy most of the time, but I get a little kick out of people who make themselves to be the arbiters of style for everyone.
Yeah.
And somebody was saying that you can't pair brown and black, or you can't pair, and so some days I take those things as a bit of a challenge.
Right. That's other reason.
And that's actually how this outfit started. That's a pretty dark, again, the light makes a difference. It's a pretty dark charcoal suit with a pinstripe, but I had seen a tie on eBay that's brown and black. That's a very light tan, and there's some mustard in that tie, but it's got some browns and black. And I had a watch for some time that I really liked because it's a pretty simple watch, but it was a black dial, what you might call the face. We call that the dial of the watch. It had a black dial, but it had that same color brown leather strap. Nice. And I thought, well, and I've seen that, like expensive brands like Panerai, for instance, have had that color combo for a long time.
Right.
And I was like, so how can brown and black not go together? Where does this rule come from? And, I'm not that iconoclastic that I just want to break all the rules.
Right.
But I was like, I think sometimes we're conditioned to think that two things can't go together. So I set out to see if I could do that.
I love it.
And I actually did it with a black suit once too. This one's charcoal, but there's black in the tie.
Okay. I think this one is more of a navy, isn't it here?
Yeah, that is navy. But there you see the brown and the black on the watch.
Yeah.
Paired together. But I paired that strap of that watch with those shoes, which are also, those are a pair of 90s Allen Edmonds. And they're, as you see, a Blucher, which I don't wear with suits all that often, but that was probably another one of those days that I wanted to see if I could make that work.
Right.
Because,
Okay.
you know, some people will be like hard and fast. You have to wear closed lace Oxfords with a suit.
Right.
And I had found those shoes on eBay for about $20.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And it was a model I'd never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting apron and split toe with some perforation on it. So it really, that day I was like, I want to wear those shoes.
And
so
the pocket squares is another touch too that I think that you pull off really well.
Well, thank you. I always thought pocket squares were kind of a nice little panache.
Yeah, that's what I'm just starting to get into. You know, it just adds a little pop of color. Because I mean, with guys, if you are into traditional dress, you know, like, you know, shirt and collar, I mean, there's not a lot of places you can add those things, you know. So
well, and I'll tell you, interestingly enough, one of the reasons. So I'm a chauffeur by profession. Mm-hmm. And have been for about 20 years. And when I got into the industry, black suits and black ties and black shoes were the accepted norm. And I always wanted to maybe separate myself a little bit or do something. And a pocket square was a way to do that. So the company that I worked for mandated we all wore the same tie, all black suits, black socks, black Oxfords.
And a white dress shirt.
And a white dress shirt.
There was literally anywhere but the pocket square and watch and socks. Everything else, there was zero flexibility, really.
Well, right. And the socks had to be solid black. So it was really where pocket squares and watches were the way that I could add some, add some flair and some variety.
Wow. Uh-huh.
You know, and that's when I started getting my Allen Edmonds collection was 95% black until about 2012 or 2013.
Really? No kidding. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had very few pair, and they were all casual pairs. I didn't have any brown Oxfords.
Huh. Interesting. Interesting.
So I started my own company. And one of the first things I did was break the rule that chauffeurs have to wear black.
Could you talk about your first car, that Jaguar?
Yeah. So I bought a 1998 Jaguar. It was 10 years old at the time. I paid $8,500 cash for it and had saved up. I saved every penny to do that. And that was kind of the genesis that started my own business with one client. And it wasn't the traditional liveried vehicle, chauffeured services, livery service vehicle, because it had cream interior. And that was kind of where a lot of that began, because if you're trying to buy cars black on black, black leather, black exterior, they have a little higher resale because they know that limousine companies and chauffeurs, that's kind of the accepted norm. This one had cream interior. And so maybe that's why, you know, I bought it from an individual. It hadn't been a limousine service vehicle, but I had people say, well, you can't really use that for a luxury limousine service because it's not black on black. And it just, you know, I probably wanted the vehicle really bad, but it made me think, oh, you know, I probably would have said the same thing before, but I asked myself, why not? And that just kind of led to, well, why must I always be in a black suit? I mean, I understand it's got a formal look to it and it's the traditional chauffeur's uniform. But I thought, you know what? It's my company.
Right.
So not to put too fine a point on it, but what it just dawned on me that I'm not bound by a rule to wear a certain thing. And so I actually asked a client, what would you think about me in a charcoal suit with a blue tie or a red? And their response was, I think it'd be fantastic. Because I had one good client. He's been one of my original clients I've had for a long time. And he said, hey, if I come down the escalator at the airport and I see 14 guys standing there in black suits or whatever, and I see one guy It's really dapper in a charcoal suit or whatever. And that's my chauffeur. It's unique.
Gonna feel a little
different. And so I just thought about that. And I still wear black. I still enjoy it. I'm not, there you see in some of the fashion forums we're in where people are really, oh, you should only wear black to funerals. You should never wear black shoes unless it's, a funeral or a wedding and I haven't turned completely against it. I still own several black suits, but I don't typically wear them with black ties. I think black can be really stately, and you can wear it with a brighter, like a pink or a mint green or something, and I think it can still look really classic.
Right, that makes sense. So here you've got a nice mid-gray with brown shoes, Oxfords, and now wait a minute.
That's actually that suit is actually, that's funny you should pick that one, because I wore that suit today and I probably haven't worn it since that photo. But it's a brown. It's kind of a taupe.
4, 5, 6. Okay, those are 6 eyelets. Okay.
Those are 6 eyelet Allen Edmonds strands in cigar.
Okay, wow. And then the watch has got a nice brown strap on it as well, and then a pocket square that pulls it together. I love it.
That's actually the watch I was telling you about that I saw with brown and black. That's a Hamilton Khaki, which is kind of an iconic field watch.
Okay.
In the entry-level Swiss brands, but Hamilton's another storied Swiss brand.
Okay.
But every piece of that outfit is secondhand.
Nice.
The shirt, the tie, except for the pocket square.
Is the dress shirt pink?
It is.
Nice, light pink. Okay.
And the medallions print on that's Paul Stewart tie are pink as well on a brown tie. And I paid $2.99 for that tie in a thrift store.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But that's actually a Belvest suit.
Belvest. I'm not huge on suits. Is that a good thing?
We're getting into the Brioni.
I've heard of that name.
Right. We're getting into that. Asea, ketone. A new Belvest suit would probably run you anywhere from $3,900 to $7,000, depending on. Yeah. And
you picked it up for how much?
$29.99.
Oh, wow! And then of course you're getting them tailored in. I would assume.
Yeah, I probably spent $150 on getting it tailored.
Absolutely, I believe that there's absolutely get it to fit right. Yep, firm believer in that. Yep. My best suit's a Brooks Brothers, and I think I paid $100. What I pay for it's a $1,000 suit retail. So it'd probably be $600-700 in a store new. And I paid $130 for it, and I think I spent $150 in tailoring on it. And I love it. Yeah.
Right, but but you got a suit that you can wear for the rest of your life if you take care of it and have a decent rotation.
Absolutely. Now, do I see, is that Shell Cordovan or no? No, these shoes are not Shell, are they?
No, they're not. That's the Allen Edmonds Manchester, which from the time I was a kid, I remember seeing a gentleman who had on some tassel loafers, and I just thought they were so cool. So I've always kind of been, there's some tassel loafer hate out there as well.
Right.
Grandpa shoes but I've always enjoyed them.
Right.
In fact, one of my first pairs of Allen Edmonds shoes were the Saratoga, which was a tassel loafer, but without the long. That's actually a long wing tassel loafer, which is kind of unique.
Yes, very nice, very nice. And is that in the navy? The suit color's navy?
Yes.
Okay. I think any of this, the navy, the blues and the navies with the burgundy leather is just such a, like that, I think is like one of my favorite combinations of colors.
I think it's classic as well. And that was a watch strap I picked up on Etsy to get, match that watch.
Okay.
That's a vintage Rado Purple Horse, which is, you'd pay somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 for a Rado Purple Horse. Rado's a very well respected, again, heritage Swiss brand. And I think I picked that up on eBay for $79 about 10 years ago.
Wow. That's awesome. Wow. Beautiful. And then we got a peek at the next one here. And excuse me, I think this color I would label, is that
walnut.
Okay. I was going to even say that pocket square color I might call turmeric, right? But
Yeah, it's close. Yeah, it's somewhere in between. This was actually the post. Those are black pants. This was the post I was telling you about, where someone had said you can't pair black and brown. It's impossible. And so I have a good friend by the name of Simon Kim who told me that you are going to accept that as a challenge, right? You know, and so I was like, yeah, I want to do it. And I actually, you notice in this one, the leaves that are falling off of a plant I have in my front yard are also that color. So I saw that and I was like, I've got to take the picture right there.
What kind of tie is that?
What kind of tie?
Yeah.
It's made by Zegna.
Zegna, okay.
It's one of my favorite tie brands. I think they make some of the most interesting and cool.
Is it Z-E-G-N-A?
Z-E-G-N-A. Okay. I won't even, it's Ermingeldo, the first name. I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation, but Zegna, yeah, very well-known Italian design house. First known for their fabrics. So a lot of suits that you would buy with other labels on them, and a lot of suits you would buy at a custom clothier often were made with Zegna fabric.
Okay, okay. And I think might have seen this shirt before, but this I had to put in there too. I'm like, look at that, the Spectator, the classic Spectator. And for those who don't know, and Russ, correct me if I'm wrong, the Spectator shoe originated way back, I don't know, probably early 1900s, but I believe it was when they went to watch polo matches, right? Because
that's my understanding, yes.
You'd walk through the grass, so the areas of the shoe that would touch the grass, the back and the front basically, were a darker color, so you didn't get the grass stain on the white shoe, right? And then it became picked up by like I believe the jazz movement. It was kind of a little bit of a rebellion thing, right?
Yeah, and it's been around. You know, I remember seeing, you know, before I knew the term Spectator in Eastern Tennessee, where I grew up, they were referred to as two tones.
I don't have any, but and then the way you pair that with the watch with the tan and the white, I'm like, like that's just I just love it. I mean, how could you not meet somebody like this and not want to you know, get to know them? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like if I met you on the street and didn't know you, I would totally walk up to you, say, hey, you know, my name's Bob. I just wanted, you know, to meet a guy who's, you know, I would totally do that, you know, but not in a weird way, but.
No, totally. And that's very flattering. Thank you.
Yeah, and this one too, right? You see the blue from the dial, you know, and the blue and the, you know, the shirt and the brown and the brown. Oh, love it. I love it. I'm gonna kind of zip through these unless you have something to say. I'll zip through these because there's a lot more interesting stuff.
Well, you can. What interesting about this was this was another one of those outfits that came with somebody said you can't wear Park Avenues. That's the Allen Edmonds Park Avenue in my favorite color. One of my favorite colors, bourbon,
which is darker than walnut, lighter than the brown, and it's got this copper hue to it.
That's absolutely correct. In fact, it starts life as a walnut shoe and then has some black applied to it.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. So that's,
I don't know anything.
And
it's gorgeous.
If you look at the watch strap, which was like the second piece of that, that's what we call a Ralleye strap with those holes in it. But that's, if you look at the watch strap closely, you'll see the bourbon with the little black edges and burnishing around it.
Right.
Just like you see a little bit on the shoe. And that was another one, actually the same friend of mine, Clayton, who lives in Canada. I traded him for that as well as that ball watch. That so we've done all sorts of trades with shoes, watches, ties, pocket squares, and which I enjoy that more than going to buy a new pair of shoes in a lot of ways, because there's a story behind it, and you know, this came from another friend. So I find that some of my most cherished watches, shoes, or whatever are those that came from people that I've developed a relationship with, and we become friends.
And here's a little more of a I guess more of a traditional, right, outfit.
Oh, absolutely. That was at the Ryder Cup up in Wisconsin about 3 months ago.
Now, what shoes are those? Those don't look like Park Avenues because the toe shape is a little more squared off, right?
Right. So that's on the four last, which is one of my favorite and best fitting lasts. But if you look at this picture here, bottom left, you see by the cuff, you can see how far it goes up. That's actually a boot.
Oh, Oh, really? No kidding. Did not.
Yeah, so that model is my favorite Allen Edmonds boot ever. It's called the Allen Edmonds Brantley. It was made back in the 90s. I don't know, maybe went into the early 2000s. I think this particular model is from 1998. But it's like, I love boots and I love cap toe Oxfords. I mean, Park Avenue is probably my favorite all-time shoe. So this is like the best of both worlds for me because I get that ankle support. So it's a little higher than a Chukka boot, but it doesn't have like a long shaft that goes up mid-calf or anything. So it's a dress boot.
And it says here that you took 20,000 steps in them. And that's routine for you, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of, we were waiting. So I walked the golf course. My client was generous enough to give us passes. They said, hey, we're going to be here for 8 hours. We have some extra passes, so go enjoy the golf. So if you walk around a golf tournament,
20,000 steps is no joke. I will tell people 10,000 is a lot. That's
my target each day. So that's my baseline of what 20? I want to hit.
Which one, 10 or
20? No,
10. 10, that's a lot of steps.
Right. I mean, so my phone will actually tell me you're 2,000 short of your 10,000 goal each day, or your whatever, it's time to get moving.
In a dress shoe, I love that. That's what I've told people is, how do you know what is a comfortable dress shoe? If you can walk 10,000 steps in a dress shoe and your feet feel okay when you take them off, that's a comfortable dress shoe in my books.
That's funny that you say that. My friend Clayton that I mentioned, I traded the watches with, we have this thing back and forth with each other that something is either a 10,000 step shoe or it's not.
Yes. And
if it's not a 10,000 step shoe, it's going to go.
Yes. Yes.
So I like to attend live music. If I can make a little aside here, live music, I've always enjoyed that. It's something my friends and I do. And I will actually wear maybe not a cap toe Oxford, but a pair of Allen Edmonds Strands or an Alden. I wore a pair of Alden boots to a show because something that's got that double oak, it's got the midsole and the outer sole or whatever. If I'm standing on concrete, or standing outdoors, people think that a sneaker is more comfortable. For me, if it's a shoe where I've sunk into that cork a little bit and it's molded to my foot, I can be on my feet all day in those and my feet feel great.
100%.
That's actually my default shoe if I know I'm going to be on my feet all day.
I 100% agree with you. Yep, absolutely. I think that's all the photos I downloaded, right? And I know that I asked you to pull some of your favorites out of your collection, right? Maybe we'll transition to that.
Okay. Well, you asked me to pull some of my favorites as well as some things that I thought might be interesting. So I'll start with I'm going to start with the oldest pair. How about that?
Okay, beautiful.
So I mentioned that I've got a few pairs that are old. This pair, if you can see, is what we call a button boot.
Yeah.
Now I have just conditioned these, but these are from about 1910.
Wow.
Somewhere between 1900 and 1910 is the best guess.
First thing I don't know, there are going to be some people that are experts on here watching, maybe some people that are novices. If you're going to hold that up again, you guys need to see the stitch density. Look how close the stitching is to the edge of the shoe, and look how small the stitches, how close they are to each other.
Yeah, that's stitch density.
And the narrowness of that waist, that is not easy to produce.
No, and I mean, look at the nail work again in the heel.
And it's only on the outside where the wear would be. It's not all the way around.
Right. Right, exactly.
Is it pitched?
And this pair is actually my size.
Wow.
And a friend of mine, again, and this, I'll probably say this and get repetitive about this. One of the great things about the shoe community, the online groups that we're in, just like you and I now have begun to talk in our previous little session, we were going to talk for half an hour. Yeah. And it ended up being 2 hours plus,
right? Because
you get energized. We have something in common, but you get to know people. And there's a couple of people, the guy where the story behind these is, I have a friend named Quan who lives in Florida, and we've never met in person, but we've talked on the phone or by Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or whatever, because we've started with this passion being the same, but found out we had other things in common. And all of a sudden, you know, we were talking about kids or relationships or, you know, whatever, pick a topic. And you kind of find people that, you know, if we lived in the same town, we'd hang out. Right. So Quan found this pair of shoes, thought they were his size, and ordered them. And then came, and it turns out they were mislabeled on Etsy or eBay or wherever. And then he sent me a message and said, boy, do I have an offer for you. Of course, I can't remember. I mean, they were maybe $100.
Wow, that's cool. That's a piece of history right there.
It's a piece of history. And I mean, even if you look at like the broguing on that cap toe, the details on this, the fudging and everything is just amazing.
Well, you get into the old stuff like that. Another funny thing is, like, I mean, I can't tell you specifically, but like zippers, for example, weren't invented till, like, you know, I forget what year, you know, late 1800s. I mean, you get into that old stuff. Sometimes the fastening is different because what we commonly use wasn't invented yet. You know, not that they had laces, but you know, there was reasons for a lot of those different things. So.
And I actually put this pair on and wore them one day. Not very. I didn't want to put 10,000 steps on them, but they're really so. But again, the age of them, over 100 years old, is fascinating. But the connection with my friend is equally or more makes them special. So
and back then, and correct me if I'm wrong, back then boots would have been the norm to wear with a suit because they didn't have paved roads, right?
Correct.
So it's only post paved road era that it became normal to wear Oxfords, you know.
Correct.
Dress shoes.
And so let's fast forward to where maybe the 1930s or 40s. And these are a pair of what we call NOS, which stands for New Old Stock. And this is the oldest pair of NOS I have. We think these are probably from sometime in the late 30s to early 40s.
And look at that stitch density and how perfect. And that contrasting stitching shows off any flaws. It's right in the middle of the welt. It's perfect in the middle of the welt.
Right. And it lines up and you see, you can tell these haven't been worn.
Spade sole, right?
Yep.
And for those that don't know, if you want to back it out a little bit, if you can show the sole again, that spade sole is how it's like the shape of a spade, a shovel. It kicks out there. Yeah, that's kind of coming back.
Right, and it is definitely.
They're paying money to cobblers to convert their shoes to that.
Absolutely, but you feel the leather. I mean, these have never been worn.
Wow, that's awesome. And what's the brand?
John C. Roberts.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, and I think they were out of business by the 50s.
Wow.
Or I don't know the story. I've read a little bit about them. But the feeling the calfskin, I mean, you can't feel it through Zoom, but it's just amazing. The quality of the hides.
Even when you show them kind of at an angle, the edge finishing just looks like boom. It's just square, like it's a piece of steel.
Right, and the stitching on the vamp.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. No, I mean the handiwork.
Stitching. That's 4 rows of stitching.
Correct.
Beautiful.
Yeah, correct. Now, moving on to something a little later. These, I think, are from the late 50s, is a Canadian-made shoe. And typically the long wing blucher is what, you know, kind of the icon of the vintage shoe. Right. This is a short wing blucher.
I'll show different so people can see. Long wing like this, where the wing tips go on.
But we talked about a double oak sole. This is a triple.
No kidding, really?
Yeah. These are commonly called bombers.
Okay.
But they're by probably the premier Canadian vintage brand that people look for is John McHale. And these are a pair of Canadian-made McHale. They've got the John McHale, the taupe's covered a little bit, but you can see the logo. And those are extremely hard to find. And a friend of mine pointed me to those, to the guy that was selling them, and I was
funny
couldn't hit that button fast enough.
Funny you mentioned John McHale. I know I showed you these right before we started recording, but just purchased these. These are Canadian-made Florsheim's, which I'm told are John McHale. So, and the one thing I noticed is how buttery soft the uppers are. I mean, the upper material was really nice.
Yeah, the leather on these is even better than the 60s floor shine that I have. It's just really, really, and it's not a pebble grain, it's a smooth grain as well, which is another kind of unique part. Now, this is a shoe you might recognize.
Ooh, is that the floor shine golden harvest?
It is.
And it's a mustardy yellow. It's a definitely lighter than a walnut shoe, right?
Correct.
And that seems to be like everyone wants that.
They do. And I was attracted to it. So my grandfather wore these shoes, but not this particular one. Okay. But long wing Bluchers were his, what we call gunboats. You know why they're called gunboats?
No.
So the row of long wing broguing here looks like the portholes on a gunship.
No way. Okay. I always wondered why they called them that.
And that's how they got named gunboats.
Huh.
So it has the long wing.
Now that makes sense. Like an old, yeah.
Right. So you see that.
Yep. That now makes a lot of sense.
So when I started getting into shoes more, I remember seeing a pair of this style, and I didn't know what they were called. And I picked them up, and they were a 93602 floor shine, which is kind of the really iconic hand stained brown color. And I took a picture of them and I sent it to my mother and my sister. And I said, what do these remind you of? And they both instantly replied, Grandpa, because that's all he wore.
Really? No kidding.
I mean, work boots or this shoe, that was it. And he loved them, you know, but he preferred Nunbush, which was a really good brand back in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. So then, of course, I had to go get a pair in that color, in my size, from that era. That took me about a year to find them, but then I found them. And so those sit on a special place. I don't wear them very often, but I always thought this color was really cool before I knew it was a sought after shoe. But I found this pair in this shape on eBay, but somebody had put a red day-night sole on it.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought just ruined this classic. So this pair I sent to have recrafted back to the original double oak. And as you can see, I haven't worn them since that. But my friend Steve,
I know exactly who did those. Yeah.
You can look and know that at Bedos Leatherworks in Falls Church, Virginia, did these. And he did a little surprise he didn't tell me about till I got them. I don't know if you can see that, but he engraved my initials in the toe plate.
Oh, in the toe plate. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I've sent him several pairs of shoes. And I think if you are on YouTube and look at, you know, shoe repair, you know that Steve's one of the best there is out there. There's a lot of phenomenal guys out there. And I still send shoes to Steve and to Tony and Tobias and to Sonny and all these guys, Alan, because I like, you know, it's kind of like, oh, there's my pair that this cobbler did or that cobbler did. So that kind of the celebrity cobblers out there. But this pair is pretty special to me. So I have a few pairs of golden harvests. So I haven't actually worn these just because they're in such pristine condition. I've kind of kept them. So that's kind of gets through the vintage one. So these are a pair of black Allen Edmonds Macneils from 1977. Wow. And I found these new old stock on eBay. You can see that they're a pebble grain.
Yes.
But it's just the leather. It's just fantastic.
Can I point out one little detail on those?
Sure.
So if you want to hold up to the side of the shoe where the eyelets are, right? The Macneil, if you notice, the later ones, they call the Macneil 2.0, where the eye stay is sewn to the side of the shoe. There's about a half-inch gap between the bottom, right there, between the bottom of the eye stay and the top of the long wing. There's a space, right? So I don't know if you knew this. What that means is you can see the vamp. If you want to point it out, like in other words, the vamp and then the quarters of the shoe are all connected. You see that?
Correct.
So what they did in the later ones is they closed that gap. They moved the eye stay down a little bit. So then what happens is the eye stay touches the long wing, and now they can make them out of 3 separate pieces of leather. And if you look, there's a seam underneath that gap.
Yeah.
So that's getting.
And these, I don't know if you can see in there, that's the old Ostendo.
Yes.
Pre-1982. And, you know, the production codes in Allen Edmonds make it really easy to peg a date.
Right.
So these were made in the 12th week on the 4th day of 1977.
Wow. That's so cool. That's so cool.
And, but if you look again, you're just talking about the,
it's stitch density.
And there's the old Allen Edmonds logo. But what was even especially cool about this pair was that they came with the original Allen Edmonds box.
Look at that. Wow.
It's got all receipt, the original Allen Edmonds paper with that logo. This may be the best pair of shoes you've ever owned, booklet that used to come with them. So a new pair of Allen Edmonds Macneils were $125.
In 77, though, that was...
Right. And this pair was bought on sale for $99.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Right. Which was in $1977, probably a lot of money.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I don't know how that's kept up with,
but
still, today that would be
it's still quite a bit more than an ordinary shoe, like the NOS Sears shoes. I remember doing the research on those. Those Sears shoes were not the bottom of the line Sears, but I think they varied between $35 to $50. I think at the 1977, I think they would have been like $40. So you still figure even on sale, 2.5 times the price of a regular shoe.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Makes sense.
Now, if we can move about a decade, this pair is arguably maybe one of my favorite pairs of shoes I own. And these are also Allen Edmonds. You can see I've worn them some.
Yeah.
But now you're an Allen Edmonds historian. You can look at that logo.
That
and
logo,
know that is post 1988.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say 89 to 2015, 2016. Right.
Now this pair, but this calfskin, which they called antique burgundy calf.
Okay.
I don't know what tannery it came from, but Allen Edmonds used it on several models of shoes. I'm guessing early 90s to mid 90s.
Okay.
I think dated this pair to 1990 maybe.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look, but it's a Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
But the color of this burgundy, they call it antique burgundy, is not only great, but this hide, this skin that they use from whatever tannery they got it from, is by far my favorite leather.
No kidding. Yeah.
It is really, I don't know if you can see here, but it is incredibly soft and supple.
And I notice it doesn't look like there's any wrinkles in it. I mean,
right. It doesn't crease much. It shines, it mirror shines like no other leather I've ever seen, just phenomenally well. Right. And it, like you said, it doesn't crease. I don't know if they weren't able to source it anymore or if it was, but I've got a Marlowe, a Chester, and a Fifth Avenue. But this pair, you can see they've not been worn a lot.
Right.
Worn them 2 or 3 times. So my good friends at the Shoe Bank up in Port Washington, a store had returned. I think a store closed. And these had been sitting in their dead stock for over 20 years.
No.
And there was one pair because the returns get sent to the outlet. And they saw those and said, wait a minute, I think I know somebody in that size.
No kidding.
Because I called them just kind of randomly and said, hey, have you seen any? I'm looking for a burgundy or a merlot Fifth Avenue because I don't have one. And then maybe 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And so because they were a return and clearance, they were sold as a factory second.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you still got a deal on them.
Oh, I got an amazing deal on them and a belt to match. So these just, I love them. They're super comfortable to wear. I don't wear them a lot because they'll still last forever, but they're just, and because of that connection, I'm a little emotionally attached to them probably as well.
That's cool.
But speaking of, and then, so, as you said, it's probably no secret. I've bought a few pairs of shoes from Allen Edmonds, but they've treated me very well and whatever. But this is probably the most interesting So I got a call from them.
Polo?
Well, it looks like a polo, but look closer.
Okay. Is it Shell?
There's no broguing.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So they had made a pair of golf shoes, I think, or we're going to. I don't really know the whole story behind how it started, but I got asked, would you like, because I had been asking probably ad nauseum to them, bring back the polo or the Shelton or some, because Saddle Oxfords are another all-time favorite.
Huh.
And, you know, after years of building a relationship and frankly buying a lot of shoes, but they made these for me as a surprise.
You mind holding them up again? Profile. So just to let
so I had mentioned that I wanted a Saddle Oxford that I could wear with
the three pieces with cutting through the middle. I don't know how to explain it. Almost like a stirrup, like when you ride.
Yeah, the saddle.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have any broguing.
Right. Wow.
So I wanted it.
Shell Cordovan?
They are Shell Cordovan.
Oh, wow.
So they're number 8 Shell Cordovan.
Yeah.
Double JR soles.
Right. Wow.
So it's basically everything I wanted in a shoe, which was a dressier Saddle Oxford.
But that was, hang on, you're saying they made just, I mean, how many of those? Like not just one?
But this is the only pair.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. And you can even see they set it on the shoe tree.
No kidding. That's cool. Wow.
So I bought the pair of shoes. They said, well, you know, if you want them, we'll make them. So normally that would be something like at a trunk show. But they said, you know, they made them to basically what I wanted.
Right.
As like a thank you for being a loyal customer. And
yeah.
so I was like, how about one with no broguing?
Huh.
Just that you see the
yeah.
What would that be? Pinking?
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of brogue and all number 8 shell.
Wow.
So and the shoe trees and whatever. So it's a one-off. So it got kind of dubbed my name. Because there wasn't a name for it. They didn't have on the box, it actually said it was a Park Avenue.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Because they had to put in something, I guess, for the insole. But you know, it came with some shoe trees. Those were that had my name on them and stuff. So this is a really special pair. And I've, as you can see, I put some wear on them too. But it's just a great shoe. And then I think the last pair I'll show you is another one of my favorite models, but these are a unique pair. Called,
I was hoping you'd pull those out. Yes.
The Allen Edmonds Hale is the model.
Okay.
Now they had a clearance on this model, and it was like, you know, when they do some of those 30 or 40% off sales of already the factory second. And they were, so I got a couple pairs of factory seconds in walnut. Because that's the best color to do a patina on. But my friend Alberto Suastez, who I think you've interviewed on this channel before, is a patina artist. And I said, you know what? We were talking about my sister, who makes a lot of the pocket square, well, actually makes all the pocket squares I wear. And somebody asked her one time where she comes up with these color combinations.
Yeah.
She said she draws her inspiration from nature.
Okay.
So growing up in the Great Smoky Mountains and in, you know, where there's lots of fall color and, you know, seeing sunsets and sunrises and reflections, and you see all the colors nature has to offer. And so Alberto and I were actually talking about that one time. And I said, you know, I'd like to take one of these, because I had 3 pairs of these in walnut. And I said, I'd like to take one pair and do like a burgundy, kind of like the color of that Fifth Avenue. This is something I could wear with a suit regularly, but I'd like to do one pair fun. And we were talking about how gemstones were a great inspiration for colors when you're doing like a museum or something, because there's so much nuance to color. And so we were kicking back ideas back and forth. And I found a picture of a feldspar
Okay.
on a Google image search and sent it to him. And you see it had all those colors in it.
Wow, look at that. So
I don't know how well
hand.
that's coming across, but you can see that's really, he's taken the brushes and done some in-depth.
I mean, I see green and brown and tan and yellow and blue.
All of that in there. So what's funny is we talked about it being the feldspar patina. And I've had Alberto do numerous pairs of shoes for me, and he does a wonderful job. But we were talking through these, what color are we going to get? And I said, I sent him a photo, and it's not exactly like that. And then he let his creativity. But what we realized is afterwards, it also resembles copper doing a natural patina.
It does, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what it became. It's now his signature. One of his signature patinas is a copper patina.
Wow.
So I don't want to like bust the bubble, but it actually started, the inspiration was from a feldspar stone.
Wow, that's cool. That is super cool.
And so that's one of the things I like.
When you first pulled that out, I thought that was the black marbled Shell Cordovan.
Oh, well, since you mention it.
Right.
This is my newest pair.
Wow. Look at
so
that.
Allen Edmonds does what they call a trunk show every year for Shell Cordovan. And, they offered dark marble cognac or truffle or different in the past. But this year, black marbled shell was what was offered. And so when they do that process, it can get all these nuances of color in it.
Oh, so nice.
So this pair was the first pair I ordered from the trunk show.
Wow.
And hopefully you can see, but they've just got some really cool color. And as you know, Shell Cordovan just has its own unique properties. So I'm interested to see, if you look like the sides of these, how these will patina over time.
Yes.
On their natural way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, variation in color. Yeah, Shell Cordovan's hard to describe, in pictures or to people unless I don't own any Shell Cordovan shoes that I can wear, but I've bought and resold 5 or 6 pairs of them. And, I remember 3 or 4 of the shoes I've gotten, the Shell shoes I've gotten. I've almost put them back, because you pick them up, you're like, wait a minute, because at first it looks like, especially when they have caked on, polish on them, they just look like the cheapest pair of shoes. But you strip off all that old polish and,
right.
Clean them up and brush them for about an hour. Oh, yeah. They come to life and they're gorgeous. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't put much. A lot of people put a lot of product on theirs. I don't. I'm a real minimalist.
Mm-hmm.
My friends Jim Petreka and Matthew Gray, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Jim, I am. Jim, I am.
Yeah. Well, Matthew Gray is the owner of Aldwin in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Matt's got probably one of the most phenomenal collections of Shell Cordovan boots anywhere on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But he was the one who told me that he told me one time, I think most people overthink and overtreat Shell.
That makes sense.
And so a damp rag, a brush, and wiping with a damp rag. And then I maybe condition mine once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Shell's just really resilient that way.
What do you use to condition your Shell nowadays?
I use pure polish.
Nice. Awesome. Cleaner conditioner?
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah. Andy Vaughn's a friend of mine, is the owner. You've interviewed Andy as well.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that. And in addition to being just a phenomenal guy, the product speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
I think Andy's probably gone into the science of leather care more than anybody I know.
Yes.
But he's able to explain it as you well know, in a way that us mere mortals can understand.
Absolutely.
But I like to work with my fingers. I like the tactile feel. Yeah. And that was what first attracted me to pure polish was when I can pick up something and I say, it says orange wax or orange oil, beeswax, and
coconut
oil. Right. Yeah. That's the 3 ingredients. That's it.
Awesome.
I think Andy told me one time you technically could eat it, but it would taste really, really bad. But it's all natural. So there's nothing toxic in there. So I don't worry about that, And he's very conscious of how it's made. It's environmentally friendly, you know, even the packaging and all that. I think that's, you know, that's something that's important to me too. And the fact that he's an entrepreneur in Bend, Oregon, making it himself.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely. Absolutely.
As a guy who started a limousine company, still out there driving cars every day. You know what I mean? I kind of appreciate that spirit too.
And speaking of that, I was going to say, speaking of that, one of the things I want to make sure that we hit on here, as I mentioned in the beginning, what I really was attracted to your posts because you were consistent, and I don't know if it was every day, but it was like boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, right? Would you mind sharing why you started posting your outfits of the day? When you told me that, I was blown away.
Well, thank you. So I had joined this group, a couple of these fashion or shoe enthusiast groups, probably 2018, late 2017, early 2018. And work was pretty busy, and I'm trying to get a business going. So I wasn't paying that much attention to them. To be honest, I wasn't, you know, social media was somewhere way down the list of things. And somewhere maybe in 2019, I posted a pair. I still remember the first post I made was a pair of Allen Edmonds Weybridge, because it's an all-time favorite model of mine. And, you know, people commented, and I made some relationships from that post because, you know, somebody made a comment and I commented back, and then all of a sudden we're taking this over to direct message to not, like, you know, hijack the feed and whatever. But then you network a little bit, and pretty soon there's like 10 or 15 people in this group of 12,000 people worldwide that I could honestly call friends, you know, more than acquaintance and whatever. And we're talking, but I still didn't put, I maybe made 2 other posts in the next 6 months.
Okay.
You know, maybe it was an off day. But when the pandemic started, so I had started this business and was, you know, it was a long haul to make it viable fiscally. And we had like finally kind of arrived. I remember talking to my assistant at the time because we had gotten like, we'd had the best month we'd ever had. We'd gotten the largest check from one account that we'd ever gotten. And it was 10 times bigger than anything. I mean, it was, we had blown the top out of it in the month of February 2020.
February 2020,
Right. And then the pandemic hit, and we saw a 99.7% revenue drop overnight.
I mean, that is basically shutting the faucet off.
Right. Yeah. No, it totally did. I mean, we did, you know, and I think maybe in 1 month, 800 trips. And in April of 2020, we did 4.
800 to 4.
Right. It just happened like overnight. And it was still, you know, we haven't had time to like put a lot of savings, and that, you know, for a company that's got, you know, tens of thousands of dollars in overhead. And then all of a sudden you have $200 in revenue in a 2-week period. It's a pretty sobering thought. And so I didn't, you know, there were a couple of days of, I don't know what in the heck we're going to do. You know, are we going to survive this? Nobody knew in late March 2020, was this going to be a 30-day thing? You know, so I said to myself, you know, I can't, you know, I started hearing people talking about where I know you do some Zoom for work, right?
Right.
I drive cars for a living. So you can't work from home. You can't literally Zoom by Zoom. Right. And so, but we had no work. So we had like, I've got to figure something out, because, you know, we can survive this maybe for a couple months where there weren't any government assistance loans like the EIDL and PPP. None of that was out yet. It was a pretty scary time. But, you know, the tendency to like just sit around and wonder, what are we going to do was real. So I forced myself to get up every day, and either whether it was a suit or you know, a V-neck, by the way, an Oxford cloth button down and a V-neck sweater is kind of my casual uniform. This is kind of like my favorite style. It always has been. So this is what I wear. I force myself, and you know, pairing the watch, pairing the belt, the shoes, everything, the hair, you know, doing that same routine, because I was afraid of getting into the routine of not doing that and giving up.
Right.
So part of posting was a selfish thing. Two was I made myself post every day. I told myself I'm going to post every day until somebody gets tired of this and tells me to stop. We're tired of seeing your mug in the feed every day. But that's why I started to do it. Can I do this for 30 days in a row? And 30 became 60 or whatever. And I literally tried. I don't think, I think I missed a couple days. I tried to say, I'm going to do this until this whole pandemic thing ends.
Wow.
And so just, you know, whether it was walking out.
So powerful on so many levels, you know, the self-discipline. I mean, so think about that. You got nowhere to go, nobody to drive, nowhere you have to be. And the first thing you do in the morning is put on a suit and in a sharp looking outfit with a pocket square. Like, wow, that's, you know, and you did it with such consistency. You know, you inspired me when I thought you were doing it because you were on top of the world, you know, like, so, I mean, another success principle there is act your way into the way you want to feel, not necessarily wait to feel the way you want to act. And I think that's something, you know, I've been studying success, you know, achieved some levels of success, you know, but you know, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and that's one of the key strategies. Is one of the key things is I don't think people realize is, you know, you got to do crap you don't want to do to become successful. And that's amazing. I love hearing that. And then the consistency of it too. That's just, I applaud you on that. That's awesome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in for part 1. Click on the link here to go to part 2. And if you have more pairs of shoes than your wife does, you might want to consider subscribing to my channel. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, go to my YouTube page, Robert Powers, and then click on playlists. And from there, you can go to things such as before and after videos, where you'll find a whole list of videos similar to this one.